Good evening, everyone, and welcome in today's live learning event. Last week we had Revit families, and now we will be moving forward to another Autodesk product, and that is pretty much essential to animation and game development. So, introducing the Autodesk Maya. But of course, before we dive into it, so we are inviting you to join, like, subscribe, to all our social media accounts. All right. So here, yeah. So please do subscribe our YouTube channel. First in line is Autodesk Community Philippines. Next, we are also here in Digital Creatives Worldwide. Also here in Makati Web. All right. We are also here in Facebook. So here in Digital Creatives Worldwide. And in LinkedIn, we are here in CAD Community Asia. In our increasing digital world, the demand for captivating and immersive content is higher than ever. Whether it's in the movie we watch, the games we play, or the designs that our surroundings, 3D design and animation have been integral to our visual experiences. So, in tonight's event, our instructor will take us on a journey to Autodesk Maya. This session will cover the steps involved in establishing a basic 3D pipeline, form research need in modeling UV, texturing export, and more. So, without further ado, so please help me welcome our speaker. So, he is a 3D artist and earned his Bachelor of Science degree from iACADEMY in Makati, majoring in animation, renowned for his expertise. So he is specialized in producing city skylines videos that highlights Philippine cities and infrastructures. His portfolio have captured the attention of esteemed clients, including Metro Pacific, Light Ray, Light Rail Manila, Philex Mining Corporation, and uh, DPWH. So, with whom he is engaged in various collaborators ventures. So, among his noteworthy accomplishments, there are visualizations of projects like Cavite-Laguna Expressway and C5 South Extension and the LRT1 presentation. Sir Gilbert Roy Alva. All right. Yeah, so by the way, sir, how are you this evening? Have you taken
Uh,
your dinner?
yes, I have taken my early dinner for now, so I can focus fully in teaching you guys basic 3D pipeline, mostly focusing on the modeling phase. I'll be doing some demonstrations, and hopefully you can guys follow with me in modeling some basic objects. Maybe it can help you in your future path in 3D modeling in either Autodesk Maya or maybe other software as well, because it's really good to start from the beginning, and maybe hopefully it can help you in the future.
Okay. So, by the way, sir, before we dive into your formal discussion, so I just have prepared some questions here for you to know you better and to have some glimpse on what you will be talking about later on. So, first, sir, I want to ask, um, how would you describe Autodesk Pi to someone who is new to 3D modeling and animation?
Well, in terms of 3D modeling, you can either choose your favorite software or software of your choice. I chose Autodesk Maya because it's the first one that uh, it's the first software I encountered in college. And the best things you just need to do is to learn the very basics of 3D modeling, and hopefully the best you can do in terms if you're trying to look for a job in 3D modeling, and for some reason they're using a different software, the best things you can do first is to create the skills in 3D modeling, and hopefully you can just transfer your skills from one tool to another. For me, Autodesk Maya is literally the first step for me into the modeling, 3D animation, even rendering. Right now, I have learned multiple software for 3D modeling, texturing, and even rendering. But Autodesk Maya for me is the first. And whichever software you choose, uh, it's really doesn't matter as long as you learn the skill to 3D model.
All right. Yes, exactly. We really need to have the we really need to know the basic first of every, not only for the Autodesk Mine, but everything that we encounter, may it be software or anything, we really have to know the basics for that. By the way, sir, may ask you how many years are you been using Autodesk Maya?
I've actually used Autodesk Maya in the year 2011. I think, yeah, 2011,
Oh,
and that's basically uh that's basically more than 10 years now. And for professional use, in terms of working in a company, mostly more than 2 years. But privately or in my hobby, I have worked on it for multiple years now.
wow, that's great. Yeah. So another question related to what I asked you. So, what motivates you to start using Maya, and how was your experience been with that software?
Well, it really depends on how much you've used multiple 3D modeling software. For me, Autodesk Maya has been the first, but I've also make sure that I would try to spread my wings and try to learn other software as much as I can. Actually, this webinar actually started as a 3ds Max software for 3D basic pipeline. At that time, I think that was like June, when I was approached in doing this webinar. I actually have no idea how to use 3ds Max. But by now, I'm already basically a intermediate user now. I'm now working on actual buildings and houses and multiple objects in the company I'm currently working in. That is Virtual Studios Philippines. And since then, I think I've worked for 4 months, and I have transferred so much of my skills from Autodesk Maya to 3ds Max.
Wow, so that's great. So you are you know both Maya and 3ds Max from now. Maybe soon we can invite you to to share the other software. Yeah, but this will be my last question, sir. So, what topic are you most excited to share to all of us?
For me, the biggest thing to share, the most exciting thing to share in a subject such as this is basically demonstrations on how to do it. Because if there's one way to just look at PowerPoint presentations, just trying to see what the software looks like, what are the words. Most of the time, I've never really memorized any of the words or tools until I use them. So it's really the best way is by demonstrating what I'm gonna show you.
Yes, exactly. That's true, sir. For me also, I'm really excited to that demonstration because of course, you yourself can discover what is inside of that Autodesk Maya, right?
Mhm. And if you don't
Go.
know, there's always Google.
Ah, yes, of course, that is our best friend, Google.
Mhm.
All right. And yes, so since you are excited, and I know our viewers are also excited with your topic this evening, so not taking much of your time, so I will now give the floor to you, Sir Gilbert, and enjoy.
So, all right. So we're gonna be doing some 3D pipeline basic training. I can show you my screen now. Okay. So we're gonna be doing some introduction and information about the software, about me. Then we're gonna do some demonstrations, and then we can do some final touches with that. Hopefully, I can show you some basic modeling within the hour or two, and we can go from there. Then we can do some questions and answers or quality assurance as well to see how well we can do this. By the way, if you have Autodesk Maya installed, feel free to follow along because I'll be demonstrating, and maybe uh, it's best to the best thing to learn is by to do, just by doing it as well. Okay, who am I? My name is Gilbert. I'm already been introduced by Miss Mary, but I'm currently working in virtual studios in Makati, though I live in Laguna for now because I'm also moving to Makati at the moment. I graduated in iACADEMY under the Bachelor of Science, majority in animation. I've also worked on not only just 3D modeling, but I've also worked on 3D texturing. I've also worked on UV, and I've also worked on animation and rendering as well. But due to the focus of my work, the rendering and the 3D animation had been let go for a bit. But I've been focusing recently on 3D rendering due to the nature of my job. In terms of the hobby, uh, the way I do my 3D modeling diverts from animation and rendering, and it goes towards game modifications. As one of the projects I worked using Autodesk Maya is with the Rail Manila Corporation, the one that actually maintains and operates the LRT1. They actually had a presentation where I showcased them not just the three current train sets, the LRT 1000, 1100, and 3G classes, but also the brand new 13,000 class LRVs. I wish I can show them, but I didn't actually set up the presentation that well. Besides that, they do have the video actually released in YouTube, so you can actually watch it right now if you like. Just search for LRT1 official. But besides that, here's some of my works that I can show you right now. This is a GameCube 3D model, mostly modeled in Autodesk Maya, UV'd in Autodesk Maya. The textures, I have done them using the software Substance Painter by Adobe. For rendering, though, I use another program using Marmoset Toolbag. Uh, Hopefully, you have your own software to use them for texturing or UV or rendering as well. In the middle one, you can see that there is a 3D model of the MRT3 train set that's actually in a video game called City Skylines, where where we can create not only play a city building game, we can also import. We can actually import our own models, our own mods to the base game itself. So for the last 3 years, no, I think 4 years because I started this in 2020. I actually started modeling, texturing, and then importing Philippine trains into that game. So if you have City Skylines and in any encounters with that train set, for example, installing like the mods for those train sets, you know who made those, and that's me. In the right one, this is actually neither for professional work or for as a hobby. This is actually a learning experience for me because you can see that this is like a broken down of a fidget spinner. So if you know fidget spinners, and I modeled this while that toy was still popular. So that's basically 2017 to 2018. And you can see how well it looks in terms of textures is because this is the time I encountered uh, Substance 3D Painter. So this is basically my forte into 3D texturing. And this is such a learning experience. I was able to improve my skills in basically creating a full on 3D pipeline. What is a 3D model? It's basically an object made in 3D space, mostly by software or calculations trying to create an image or an object, basically to be displayed in a two-dimension screen. 3D models can be created automatically or manually, or sometimes either you can even buy them by talented artists in multiple 3D websites that basically would like to share or sell their works. What is 3D modeling? 3D modeling is the process of developing a mathematical coordinated based representation of any surface or any object, inanimate or living. Basically, for inanimate, it's basically basic objects, like for example, bags or bottles. Or when you're talking about living, those are more complex things to model, not only because you have to basically try to replicate working 3D tissue, for example, this one, try to simulate to make that into a living object, but also trying to rig it as well to be able to animate them. Like, for example, an arm, you'll have to create like bones for that, and uh, any end controllers just to basically use it for animation. Some of the industries that uses 3D modeling, that's basically a lot because in today's world, there's so much you can do with 3D modeling. The final products are basically either mundane from simple visuals to even to very important projects from demonstrating what you want to show to a large audience, or have created fully simulations of 3D objects that can be simulated in actual environments. For example, if you try to create a building and you want to simulate it in an earthquake scenario or a wind scenario, there are now simulations that can do all of that. So let's read what's in the presentation. What are the some of the industries that uses 3D modeling? For animation, 3D animators can be found in many different forms of media, including video games, movies, television, and commercials. So if you see anything that mostly is animated and does not use like a normal camera, big chances they're mostly 3D animations modeled by 3D artists. Architecture. That's basically the field that I'm in right now. After changing a lot of industries from animation to e-commerce. That's another industry that I have worked in as a 3D artist. But for architectural, this is where we can convert a actual 2D blueprint and transform that into 3D models that can be viewed in 3D space, either for visuals or for simulations. And a lot of this has become very vital in the world of construction today. 3D printing, for me, when I looked at 3D printing, is a more recent industry or a recent trend where you can actually create 3D models and be able to print that in real space instead of just being software. Most of that has been done either using a 3D printer or a CNC machine, where a 3D printer basically prints your 3D models, but a CNC machine actually carves basically solid objects to fit the shape of the model you made. Industrial, same as the architectural, but not only buildings, but also anything inside it. For example, you have an empty building and you need to fill it up with the most efficient way in having your workspace over there. Instead of guessing or rearranging anything in real time, in real life, it would be more efficient and cost effective to do it in 3D space. Gaming, basically our favorite. If you're an aspiring 3D modeler for the gaming industry, this is going to be very big because everything you see there, in if you're in a 3D game, everything will be done modeled by a 3D artist. So, what are the things that they model in a video game? It can start from a character or the environment itself or any assets in that environment from vegetation, boulders, weapons, vehicles, furniture, and so on. Okay, what's this now? Full 3D pipeline. This is basically for me or for the industry itself. It's basically a way or in an instruction set for you to have in terms of what you're gonna do in a project. This may be applied to any pipeline that you may wish to do, from basically either like a 2D animation or a 3D project, anything that can be done in a pipeline. It can be really organizing, and you have multiple goals that you can set yourself in. For example, in this full 3D pipeline, pre-production, that's basically researching or preparing everything you need. For example, what software are you gonna use for 3D modeling? So we're gonna be using Autodesk Maya. What are you gonna model, or what is that What are you gonna try to model, or if you have if you have that object that you want to model, what is it made out of? What does it look like? What are the measurements? So on and so forth. The more references that you want to add in your pre-production, the better. Because each time you get confused, you might get stuck and you might not know what to do or make mistakes. At least, if you have more references and basically prepare on what you need to do, production will be easier because you have set everything at pre-production. So let's go to number 2, at production. What is production? That is basically after pre-production. This is where you go to work. You have everything you set up. You have set up. This is basically what you're gonna do in the project. For production, you'll be beginning to model because you know what to model now because you have set everything in pre-production, mostly the references you need to prepare. After modeling your object, you'll be UV unwrapping because in a 3D pipeline, you will need to texture and to be able to render or to be able to export. So after you've done your UV unwrapping, this is basically to have a map where you can place your textures. Baking and texturing, that's basically adding basically the skin or the colors of the skin of the 3D model. And then export or render, that's basically the final, mostly the final part of a production. And then either that export becomes post-production or it's still in production because you may export, but sometimes you go back because you may need to do some corrections or anything like that. Post-production, that's basically doing the after any edits or any corrections or the final procedures to the presentation. Either you try to fix any mistakes, you do some optimizations, or you set it up for rendering or final export. And then the final one, either presentation or full export. That's basically your final goal. You may revisit everything back again if you want to do future revisions or remasters or anything like that. But the very last one is basically your final goal. The basic 3D modeling pipeline. What is the basic 3D pipeline? A 3D content pipeline is a system consisting of people, hardware, software aligned to a specific sequential order to do a predetermined task in a predetermined time frame. So basically, hmm, consisting of people, hardware, and software. Oh, this is like some another pre-type thing that I have. This is mostly if you have a team of people that you have to set up everything, and the hardware and software that's gonna be at your pre-production. You have to prepare everything at the beginning, and one of the things you need to have as well, if you're in a deadline project, is a time frame. You need to have your own deadlines in when you want to fulfill this final batch or final iteration of your projects. Known 3D software. This is one of the uh, most common for me in 3D software. There are also other 3D modeling softwares that I know of, but here are some examples. Autodesk Maya. So Autodesk Maya is one of the primary modeling software used in industry in terms of 3D modeling, character creation, and 3D animation. 3ds Max, by the way, for me, I have used them for hard surface objects and to be used in multiple industries from architecture to visualizations. Blender, for now, I have not really touched Blender in a way, but it is a very known free software. So if you want to learn 3D modeling and you don't want to have the hassle of going for trials or paying so much money for professional projects like Autodesk Maya and 3ds Max, you can start with Blender. You can do a lot with Blender, by the way, not just in 3D modeling or the 3D pipeline, but also in video editing as well. I have not done that, but maybe in the future, I would also learn Blender as well. The other software that I did not add in this slide is a, a niched one, but it's really getting popular. It's called ZBrush. And that is more useful not as a 3D modeler, but actually as a 3D sculptor. You use that software to sculpt 3D models. And I have used that software in terms of photogrammetry, just trying to lighten the object itself because uh, the difference between Autodesk Maya 3ds Max and Blender is ZBrush can handle millions or tens of millions of polygons for the purpose of sculpting. If you put that heavy model, for example, a full-on character with millions of polygons in Autodesk Maya or 3ds Max, they will not be able to handle that as well as ZBrush. So they have their positives and negatives, advantages and disadvantages. So it's really best to learn multiple software if you can. But for the time being, we're gonna be learning Autodesk Maya. Okay, our objective for the lecture. This is going to be what you're gonna be focusing for the time being, research and reference. So if you're going to model an object, what is that object itself, what it looks like, and what are the dimensions in those things. So I'm gonna be doing a demonstration actually in Autodesk Maya, basically on how we can model a dice. I just thought of a dice because it's a simple object and we can make it look good and you'll be able to learn a lot. And hopefully you guys can follow as well. Preparing the project, so basically we set up the software itself like Autodesk Maya and we can load up our references, either just leaving it at Google or because most of the times I just search in Google or Bing, anything that I can find useful as an for information in creating objects. Another one is PureRef. It's a very useful tool as well. If you like, you can search for PureRef. It's a free software. One of the things you can do with it is you can copy paste every reference you want there, and it's a very useful tool, especially if you have a single monitor and you want to have your references up there and not disturbed. And then we can begin modeling. Basically, we're just gonna model our object itself. Export, I don't think we're gonna be doing any export. Maybe we can just take a screenshot or anything like that. Anything that shows that you have made the object. Sometimes you can also export to a full object. Maybe if you have time, I can show you how to do a basic export for you to show to anyone that you made this object. All right, demonstration time. Welcome to Autodesk Maya. So this is the workspace that you'll be working on. So I'll be facing here because my screen is over here. And we'll be creating our dice for the time being. And one of the best ways to know what a dice looks like is to go to our best friend, Google. Now, welcome to Autodesk Maya. One of the things you can see here is the poly modeling. This is going to be where you can create your meshes. For example, we have our sphere. One of the things that you can do here is you can either create like as a template, for example, a football, a basketball, or anything like that you can do with a sphere. Even a globe, you can use spheres for that. Cylinders. One of the things you can do with cylinders actually is for example, to create pipes or structures that require cylinders or pipes or tubes or anything that way. Even ropes, you can make ropes out of cylinders. You can do a lot with these templates. What else are we doing here? Right now, you can see that I'm moving the camera itself. I don't actually have a way to show my keyboard how I would do my modeling. But you can see here is I'm moving the mouse and I'm doing left click. It does nothing right. Because one of the things you need to do is to hold Alt and you can move the camera by pressing left click. And then if you have a middle mouse button, just press Alt and you can move the camera by panning it. Right click, it does zoom, but you can also use your scroll wheel to zoom in and out or out. So this is gonna be the goal we're gonna be modeling. This is a dice cube. For some reason, it's not showing my model. There you go. So this is what we're gonna be doing today. A full-on dice. Actually, I modeled this the hour before our webinar because most of the time you have no idea how to model this object because sometimes you'll be given a task or you set your own task on what you're gonna be modeling, and every model is different. So it's really best that you would learn from scratch on learning what you're trying to do. That's why pre-production exists and research what you're gonna try to model. So I'm gonna show what I have used as my very reference in creating that dice. So I would pick this polygon plane because what you can do here is you can actually import your own references instead of just having another screen showing it on another display. Sometimes having it very close to the model is very useful. Now, we're gonna create a texture for this plane. So I just press and hold right click, the window disappears and the selection appears. I don't know how that works, that's just StreamYard. So we're gonna assign a new model. We're gonna use Lambert as our texture material. So what we call in the textures, basically the surfaces, what we're gonna be painting on, basically materials, because you can have different materials from shiny to very opaque or either even transparent. So you can change the color of your objects and even make them transparent if you like. But because we're gonna use this as our reference to make that dice, we are going to import our own reference. So we're gonna be pressing this checkered button to create a render node. We're gonna click File. Now this is going to be the attributes of the material, and we're now gonna pick our material. All right, we got ourselves an image that we're gonna use, but we don't see it. It's not visible. How are we gonna make it visible? There is there are buttons here that shows a lot of what it does, and good thing that it can show the names, because most of the time we don't know what they are. It's better to have them named, and we can just activate whatever we need. So we're gonna be using use default material to show our materials. So we got ourselves a dice reference that we can use to basically create our dice. Now, what you saw there, I was able to move, turn our objects. And this is what they are. Oh, it doesn't show here. Okay, okay. Here it is, the tools. You can see at the top left are the tools. What you're gonna be using a lot of these tools. 90% of modeling, you'll be using these. So, this is basically your select tool. You use it to select your objects. This one, lasso tool, I don't really use this. I also don't. I barely use paint selection tool, but it's a useful tool if you wanna paint select surfaces. This one, by the way, this is the move tool. We use this to move our object, or what we call mostly mesh, 3D mesh. And then we use the move tool. You use the W key to basically activate this tool. If you played like Dota 2 or League of Legends, a lot of the key binds you use for attacking or doing anything, you use QWER, right? So most of the time, you can have your left hand set up to those buttons, so you can have your tools chosen. See, I can just spam QWER and basically use any tool that I like. So for example, W key, you use the move tool. For the E key, you use this to rotate your objects. Now for R, this is what you use to resize objects. And you can see the axis. We call this the axis. It sometimes can follow your object, sometimes it doesn't. You can do this by holding the D key, and you can basically move the axis to one part to the other. For example, there, and you can basically control that part as well. If for some reason you have done this by accident, here's a tip. You can right click You can hold the D key and then hold right click, and then you can press reset pivot. That is a really cool tool if your pivot axis goes somewhere else that you don't want it there. For now, it's in a mess now. For some reason, if any reason you want to put that, for example, back in your original spot, but it feels weird and this is not the original place that you want it to be. You actually want it at the center. There are tabs here that you can see. Currently, we're at the attribution editor, and you control this by pressing Control A. You can change the sidebars here, mostly the channel and the attribution editor. Now we're at the channel box editor, and it basically shows your current position at that time. So you can actually reset that, or for example, there we're gonna reset everything. Oh, we that's not resetting. We basically made everything zero. We basically broke the the object itself. So let's fix that. Let's put everything to one. One is the default for now in terms of scale. So we got that way that object to be able to change to whatever we want, and you can see that it's changing at real time. So we have that dice over there, and our goal is, remember, is make this piece of dice. So let's begin modeling our dice, and hopefully you can follow along, and you can use this as a way to start modeling. So we begin by producing our polygon cube. Just left click that, and we got ourselves a cube at the middle of the square. You can see that this is like the grid. This basically, if you've seen a diagram to show X, Y, and Z axis, this is what it looks like. So if you move the object right to left like that, we're moving the X axis. This is the Z axis if you're using Maya. In 3ds Max, that's actually the Y axis, and this is the Z axis. But in Maya, this is the Y axis. So let's try to, for now, let's move the box at the very top here. But for some reason, it's floating and it's not really touching the grid itself. So let's try to make it touch the grid and make this into an imaginary floor. One of the things you can do here is you can have it snap. Like snap to curves, snap to points, snap to projected center. Do more snapping. So we're gonna be snapping this by snap to points, pressing the D key. Press and hold the D key, and then just press the down. The what's this again? The arrow axis, arrow pivot, the yellow one that represents the Y axis. Now that is now locked to the point of this cube. Basically, this is the points of the cube. What you see points, you don't actually see the points. So I'm gonna show you what the points are. By holding the right click, you can see the modes of the way you can select your object. For example, if you select vertex, you will see purple dots at the very tip of the object. That's basically the points of the edge points of every object. This is basically you can control your very object in terms by edges. So I'm just gonna undo that by pressing Ctrl Z, and that's a very useful. You'll be pressing a lot of undos because mistakes will be made, and undos is your best friend. Now, if you hold right click again, press edge, you're basically now controlling the lines between points. And you can also control them. Now, if you press hold again, press and hold right click again, you'll go to face now. You'll be controlling the shaded part of the 3D object. And same as the points, you can do whatever you want with it. Now, how are we going to make our dice? One of the things you can do here is you can create more lines, basically more edges in between our object. One of the things that I would use as a tool to create more edges is multi-cut tool. This way you can create your edges. By the way, you can see that you can only select the middle parts, but for me, I can select the center part by holding shift. You can actually modify this in the toolbar, the tool settings. For example, this one. You can have snap steps to whatever you want to do with it. But for the sake of the time of creating this dice, we're gonna start by doing just that. So you can see that there are six sides. How many sides? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides in the dice. We're gonna be creating a six-sided dice, and here's another reference: the dice that I made. You can see that this is an actual complex object where you can actually see the dents of the dice itself of each hole, and it looks very smooth and it's really detailed. And I was able to make this within an hour, so we can actually start now. One of the things we need to do is to create the holes themselves. So we will start with this one, just a single side. Here's how I'm gonna be showing to you what I'm gonna be doing. I'm gonna be using the multi-cut tool. Create the edge points where we can have our six sides. So there we go. Now we have our points that we can make our six sides, our six dots. So we're gonna be using our vertex. We can select our vertex, and one of the things we can do here is use bevel components. This is basically creating uh, another set of edge. For example, we're gonna pick edge again. Hello, edge. Select this edge. We can bevel. It's basically creates two new edges in between, and you have now a more rounded object. One of the cool things you can do is you can do that as well with vertices. So you press bevel components. You have your six dots. Now, you can see that we're making a circle. We're trying to make circles for our six dots, and these are not dots. How are we gonna make circles out of these? The only way you can do it is by making more vertices. Try to make a circle. So we're gonna continue with our edge. We're gonna use multi-cut tool. Try to click the very corner of this dice and then create a try to create a line here at the very edge of your circle here. Now with that, we have our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have now 8. We have now 8 vertices that we can make into a circle. One of the ways you can make a circle is either to do it manually by using the resize tool, the scale tool, and then boom, you have a circle. But sometimes it's not going to be a perfect circle. We want a perfect circle. So we're going to undo that. Select the rest of our vertices. Press Q to go back to selection tool so you don't want to mess around with your selection. And pick the circleize tool. This is a tool that you can use. You can either use manual or tools. Tools are cool. You can use them. Boom. A perfect circle. Now we got ourselves a perfect circle, but it's not as smooth as that one. How are you going to make an object that's smooth? This detail. One of the ways you can do is by pressing your number keys in the top left of your keyboard. So you can press 1, 2. 1 is your original object, 2, and then 3. So this is what it looks like if everything is smoothed out. But that is not the correct object that we're trying to do. So let's go back to 1. If we do that number 3 with this dice, it looks like that. Nothing barely changed because it's as smooth as it can be. Now, let's do the rest of the dice. And with the reference that we have here is now it's now the time that we're gonna make our dice. So I'm just gonna keep undoing everything I've done here because it's best to do the rest of the dice for me. So I can see that this is number 6, so bottom is number 4. Follow what you have here, number 4. Now we got our edge. Boop, 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 boop. Oops. 50%. 50-50. We're trying to have 4 squares here. Over here is the number 2, so let's make ourselves a number 2. Question: is anyone actually have Autodesk Maya installed and actually trying to make your own dice? Uh, put it in chat. I want to see. Let's put the number 3 over here. If you have any difficulties, you can ask them right now. I'll try to answer them. Because I'm gonna make this as fast as I possibly can. Okay, this is gonna be a number 5. Let's select that. Put that away. The way I was able to show and hide my objects here, by the way, we have an outliner. This is basically showing every object you have inside your current project file. You can press H or press H again to basically show and hide your objects. Oh, you can also type it. You learn something every day. Here you go. We can make it invisible and we can focus again on our project as well. Okay, over here we're gonna make a number 5. Toot, toot. And the very bottom is a number 1. Now we're gonna create our holes now. So this something that happens. Do, just keep pressing the right click, and you got all of your vertex selected. Now let's begin our bevel. It's also called chamfer. Chamfer. So they can have like multiple names in any tool that you use. We can actually make it a bit bigger if you want. Yeah, we can make it bigger. Let's make it 0.45. For this ones, if you wanna try to fix them, sometimes you'll be able to do it on your own, or sometimes you'll just have to undo them from the beginning. We don't have time to undo, so we're just gonna join all of them and try to create this into one single vertex. So one of the things you can do right now, you can right click, right? There's a lot of tools you can do with right click, but sometimes that's not enough. So you have to do shift right click. You have more tools like merge vertices and merge to center. Boom. In that, you basically manually undo what you have done. If you, for example, if you made a mistake or you need to do some corrections, you can just go back and fix them. Sometimes there's nothing wrong to do that. You can do whatever you want to get it right. Any way that works, it's a good way. Level, let's make it 0.45. There we go. Now, is now the time to make them into circles. Oh, by the way, if you have any mistakes in trying to select your position, for example, like that, but it's actually wrong, you can just press the backspace key if you want to undo any of those types of mistakes. Another one is when you go to edge selection, if you see something that you don't like, this is actually wrong, you can just press control minus, not control minus, control backspace. This removes both edge and the vertex over here. Because, for example, if you create that same mistakes, for example, here, you only select the edge and then just press backspace, the vertex is still there. And sometimes you don't want that vertex to be there. So if you also delete, it might work. But in other software, for example, 3ds Max, it might just delete the entire face. So you don't want that. So like that, you don't want that. Oops. Oh, by the way, you can actually just cut across if you if it's convenient, and then you can just delete the rest later on. Sometimes this can work, sometimes it doesn't. Like so. But for me, I don't want for now I don't want to have these here. You'll know why. You'll know why. All right, we got ourselves a full-on circle here. So we just have to select each vertex. Oh, in this way, it's sometimes very cumbersome to just clicking every vertex. You can actually press and hold tab, or basically use the paint selection tool and just selecting these. See? You can see I'm just holding the tab button. Tell me if it works for you guys. See? Much faster. Alright, now with the circularize tool, boom, it doesn't work. Because you have to do it manually. You have to do it one at a time. Or maybe you can just play with this for now and see if it works. And looks like it doesn't work. So we're just gonna deselect, undo all of that. And then let's go back to our let's do them one by one. So I'm gonna do the face select and then select the face, circularize, and sometimes that's gonna take a lot of work to do it, just to basically select, circularize. There's a faster way to do it, and it's by repeating the same command. So for example, I'm just gonna press select here, and then the repeat command is letter G. So press G on your keyboard. You can basically do this a lot faster now because you're just repeating the same command. Instead of selecting that, pressing that, and then it really saves a lot of seconds. Alright, now we got ourselves a full-on cube, but if you press number 3 to make it soft, like the other one, we're getting there, but we're not there yet. Now we are going to make them go down. We're gonna try to sink them into the dice itself. So we are gonna select our dice by having the face selection tool. Holding shift, basically select your objects. Now, we are going to be using a very useful tool in creating more details, and it's called the extrude. We're basically gonna create new vertices, edges, and faces from the spots that we selected in. So we're gonna select that. Boop. You can see a new set of faces. Basically a new type of axis. Basically you have a new model over here, and you can do this. You can also do it here as well. You can have some monstrosity like that basically if you try to make it wiggle, it's so weird. But we're gonna make a small dice. There we go. We're gonna make it 0.25 in the depth of our local translate Z. I haven't tried what does thickness do. Oh, that's the same thing. We don't need that. Offset. Oh, you can just play around what you can do with this. For me, nothing at all. Division, you can see it's creating new edges, but we don't really need those right now. So we'll give that to 1 and then press enter, or deselect your object and you have your extrude model. So we're gonna try to simulate another smoothing group here. By pressing 3, we are getting close to our actual cube here, but not as close as we want, right? It still looks weird. It looks like a crumpled piece of dice, but we're trying to make a new piece of dice here. So we're gonna continue on. Press 1 again. We can hide that again. But before we continue, I actually didn't tell you this, but we made so many mistakes in terms of our model here. If you want to know what those mistakes are, it's basically, one of them is this big chunk of empty space. Even though we actually don't need anything here, this actually looks right. But in terms of, for example, video games, this is actually wrong because one of the main important things in 3D modeling is to have four sides in a face. We call these faces pala, not skin, faces. But this is actually not four sides because it looks like it's at four sides because 1, 2, 3, 4. But you didn't actually count this. This counts as a side. So if you go to vertex, there's one edge here. Anything that's more than 4 edges is already what we call n-gons. So if you apply for a job and try to make a 3D model, if it's really important for them, you might want to fix this not to show more than four sides or 4 edges. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is actually 7 edges. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 edges. We need to fix that. But for example, you might need to look for the entire object for this types of mistakes. But before that, let's try to fix this one first. It's really easy though. You just connect them. One of the ways you can do that is to use the multicut tool. Boom, boom. Now, this is just 6 sides, but there's another way. If it's useful, go to Edit Mesh and press Connect. It does that immediately. I don't think this will work if there's already a... No, it doesn't work. There's already a line here, so it's best to just use the multicut tool. Shing! Now that's fixed. Now that's just 4 sides. But in case that there's more that you actually don't know of, how are we gonna make it visible? One of the biggest ways you can do it is by pressing Mesh, and it's cleanup. But it might not be set up the way you want, because if you just press cleanup and it just does it, it might not do this. It might do something else. That's why we have this icon here. This is basically the option tool for each tool that we have here. For me, I only have select matching polygons. You should not have this one because it might change your object to something in an undesirable matter. So you select this one and then only click 4 faces with more than 4 sides. Because if you only have like 4 sides like that, to click everything that's 4 sides, and you might think, hey, wait, this is not right, but it's actually right. So we're just gonna click this 4 faces with more sides like that. And for some reason you click this one. See, it might just create undesirable edges that you don't want. That looks weird. Look at that. That is so wrong for me. Not only that we didn't make them into quads, we made them into triangles. In some cases, that's good, but for our case, we only need quads. So we are going to undo that. Select only. So let's fix everything here besides the holes. Because what we're gonna do later makes this not as important as these ones. These are the ones that we need to fix. For example, let's pick this one. Let's go to vertex. We're gonna select these two and edit mesh, connect, and do the same thing. And then just press G to repeat your commands. One, two, three, four, five. See, 1, 2, 3, 4. This one, you can see that this is a bit cleaner than this one, but this one is more uniform than this. So this one is more subjective, but I'm gonna teach you something here. Is that we can actually target weld. We can weld our vertex to another vertex. For example, we're gonna click this one, and then click this one. Boom. That vertex was welded to this one, so it's basically a single vertex now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we can keep that for now. This one is 5 sides. Let's target weld. This one, more than 4 sides. We can see why. It's this one's. Oh, you saw that, right? It exploded like that because I selected everything and welded to that single vertex. So we can just undo that safely. Select this void and do it again. So you don't need to panic. You have the undo button. Undo button is your best friend. Alright, let's check again. Here are some of them. So let's fix that. These ones though, you're gonna be using this one. Okay, this one's left. This one, we're just gonna join them. These ones as well. And now we have our clean cube. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna try to bevel the edges of the cube, because you can see currently it's very sharp. You don't want it this sharp because that's not what real life is. Nothing is that sharp. Even you have the sharpest knife, it's still not as sharp as this. So we are gonna do some beveling of the edges, trying to make it look more like a real dice. Also, if you don't want to make mistake, for example, if you're trying to select and then you actually drag your axis pivot here, we can just undo that. Press Q just to do the select tool. Hey, new music, nice. All right, we got our edges selected here. Now let's do a little bevel. That's too much bevel. Let's lessen that a bit. 0.3 is good. 0.3 is good. Object mode. And then if we press 3, it really looks like a real dice. But if we only do that, if we just press 3, what is 3 again? We're just trying to make it look like a curve, but that's not actually what it looks like, because you can see that it's moving like that. That doesn't feel like an actual 3D object. So we'll be smoothing out our mesh here. So we'll press smooth options. You can see we're just gonna divide it by 1. Boom! We got ourselves a dice, and All of these actually have interior quads, which is good. But this is not enough though. This is not enough. It feels weird. It feels a bit cartoonish. So we're just gonna apply one more time for smoothing it. Boom. Double the smooth. We got ourselves a very nice dice. Let's see what we have here. Let's see what we have the original one. Select our outline, our original cube here. Very close. It's actually more realistic than the first one because the first time you may get it right. The second time you'll do better. This is actually a more realistic looking new dice. And you can actually feel like you're holding it in your hand if you see it in the distance. See? More so than this one. This looks like a cheap knockoff. This one looks better, much better. Next thing is to add some color. We will do some texturing maybe in the future if I'm gonna do another webinar. But for now, let's add some colors to our dice here. Oh, by the way, if you want to focus on an object like so, you press F. And now we can just hide anything that we don't need. And let's try to create our dice here. So we're gonna press and hold right click, and we're gonna assign a new material or a favorite material. Let's go for a favorite material for now. And we're gonna go for blend. And it's gonna be more shiny. Oh, another thing here. If you finish modeling your object, you might need to clean it because you can see the history, the inputs of all you've done, all you've done in that model. So we can go as far as this one. I guess, I don't remember. But this is every edit that you made. And if you finish your object now, we can just delete it by either edit, delete all by type history. Now you got ourselves a clean looking dice here. We can also modify freeze transform, and basically it's a full on static position now. It thinks that that object is basically where it belongs. The other option you got here, besides delete all by type history, is the keybind Alt-Shift-D. It also deletes the history as well. Now, we got ourselves a blend object. If you go to Attribution Editor or press Ctrl-A, it's just this now. Very clean. Now we can, for now, edit our materials to make it look like more of a dice. So let's make it white. But our model here doesn't have anything in between. So let's select by pressing face and then hold tab. We can do our paint select. We have now selected this face of the die. So we're gonna try to right click and we're gonna create a new material. So we're gonna call it blend. And we're gonna just make it dark. We can also rename that. So let's make it black dot. And then the faces here, the blend one. Let's just rename it to white surface. So if we try to go back to object mode and deselect anything, it looks like an actual dice. But there are even better ways to texture an object. Oh, by the way, for me, I can't actually see what I'm looking at right now because it's so bright. So we can try to change the shading for a bit. So we can try use default material just to make it show the model only without the texture. We can undo that, or sorry, I'm just looking at something. Smooth shade all, wireframe, flat shade all, bounding box. You can even go to the display itself and then Windows workspace. There's so much things you can do in here. Settings preferences. Let's try to go to our preference here. Display. Let's see if we can change the color of our background display. I actually don't remember, but there's a lot we can do here. One of the other things you can do here is you have like units. For now, we're working in centimeters. If you're working for an American company, you might have to change that to inches like that. Very useful information you might need. I'm looking for the way to change the background. There is a way. There is a way to change. Well, I can't find it right now. Maybe we'll find it in the future, but there's a way to make the background a bit darker if you want. But we have no time for that right now, so we'll just have to do everything as is for now. You know what? I like that shade, the default material shading. I can see better. So we got this object selected. Right click, we can assign existing materials, and you can see the one you made here. We don't see that right now, but we'll see that later. Or we can show it now. See? For here, you saw that I was able to select a ring, right? You can select your object, and then you select the second object by holding shift and then double click. Like so. But sometimes it doesn't work, so that's why I didn't really demonstrate that. But it is a useful way to do a quick select, but sometimes it might select more than you need. So use it sparingly unless you're fine with it. This one feels wrong. Oh, to deselect an object of your choosing, you just have to press and hold control. Okay, let's fix this one. This feels wrong. So let's regularize that. There you go. Much better. See, that's why sometimes you don't want to use the double click. You might select the entire object, which is sometimes you don't want to do. By the way, when you try to do undo, you can even undo the way you select an object. Yeah, that's how good undo is. You can undo what you select. All right. That's basically it. We got ourselves a 6-sided dice. Now, to make it quick, we can try to export this actually. I actually have no idea if this is gonna survive in the exporting process, but 100% the model, it will be exported, but I'm not sure about the colors. So let's try to do a quick export. One of the formats of one of the most common formats of exporting is called FBX. So we're gonna try to export selection and then the options icon. So we're gonna do a FBX export. So let's begin export selection. A new folder will show up, and mostly what I do here is I just look at the options here, disable anything because they are not Required, maybe embed media. Let's see if that works. Scale factor, automatic. Mostly leave everything else as is and see what we can do with it. So dice and then export selection. And with that, I'm gonna try to minimize. I'm not sure if I can minimize. Let's see. Ooh, oops. I minimize every every window. Let's see if it shows up. It's in my desktop. Okay. I need to change my screen. Let me just do this for a bit. Stop screen and then percent. Share screen. Yes. Okay. Let me see if you can see it. This is it. It's a fully exported piece of dice. You can now show this to your friends if you want to brag that you were able to create this object. And soon, maybe you can create more complex objects. But this one, at least if this is your first time modeling and creating your object, at least you got something to show for. And it's a really good model that you can show off. It looks like a really good dice, right? So what do you guys think? If you are trying to follow in, we're able to create your own dice. Oh, that doesn't look good. There you go. But that's mostly it. That's basically it. We can show the grid here, and maybe we can have our shading here to show us basically base rendering. No. Wireframe. You can see the complexity of your model. And it's a clean model. Sometimes you'll be needing to make a very clean one, a very low poly one, or high poly one. This is basically a first way to model your own objects. Hopefully that you were able to use the tools or the tips and tricks that I was able to show you, and maybe you can use this as a stepping stone to better projects, better models, or just have fun. Model what you like. For me, I like modeling trains. And anything like that, you can do whatever you want with your modeling software. So, this is gonna be the end of the demonstration, and I think it's back to the host and begin with our QA.
Okay, all right. So that was great, Sir Gilbert. I was really enjoying at the backstage. I was watching you. It's just I wanted to do the same. I wanted to follow along with you, but it's just that I don't have the app installed on my device. But it's really I enjoy watching you. Maybe soon if I have already Maya Autodesk Maya in my device, I would replay this video and learn from your video, sir. It's really amazing because it's also my first time to encounter Autodesk Maya. Yeah, it's amazing. It's really amazing. Yeah, so yeah, thank you so much. Thank you very much for that very informative session and enjoying session, Sir Gilbert. And I hope our viewers have gained a lot of insights for today's topic. So now to all our viewers, I want to invite you to share your thoughts also, your questions. So you are feel free to ask Sir Gilbert all of your questions, and of course your experience also with this amazing session with Sir Gilbert. As just me, look at me, I'm so happy. Yeah, so let me know in our comment section. You can comment down in here. So let's see how was your experience, and if you have questions, you can drop it down in the comment section. Sir Gilbert can answer the questions. Remove this first. We have one question here from John Crucis. Which train is your favorite and which one is the hardest to model? Yeah, that's the question. Which train is your favorite?
Oh,
Yeah, because you
so
mentioned a while ago that you model train.
well, the first my favorite train actually. I don't really have that many favorites because I just like to make more and more trains, mostly to practice, and then mostly I want to see them run. But for me, the hardest to model is basically the first because after you've done the first, everything becomes easier, or you try to make it hard for yourself by making it either too complex or too unique. But the very first train that I modeled in City Skylines using Autodesk Maya is the first one, the PNR Kogane train. It's actually the Japanese train that arrived in the Philippines in 2011, and it's one of the most unique trains that travels here in the Philippines, and I use that as my first train set to model. And then because it's the first one I made so many mistakes. But each train that I make, I improve upon it. I try to make it more efficient. That doesn't work because for me, I like to go do better and better. Sometimes it becomes more complex, but you need to balance that because there is a limit to how much you can model in City Skylines or import in City Skylines before it becomes too unstable or too heavy. So the first one is the PNR Kogane, and because I there's more than one design for the Kogane, I also did a remaster creating the JNR Kogane as well, which is the original livery of that train, but it's much more detailed. And I also improved the PNR Kogane design as well to match with that train set as well. So I had a lot of fun, and I used all of those for my portfolio, and I got hired actually with my previous company last year with Narasoft.
If you have sample for this train, maybe you can show us.
It's in my YouTube channel called Gilbert Place, and if you just search for PNR Kogane in City Skylines or JR Kogane in City Skylines, you'll be able to see those videos showcasing the trains themselves.
Maybe Sir Gilbert, you can also share your screen, posting your YouTube channel so that our viewers can also see and subscribe to
Okay,
your
okay.
YouTube channel or see what are your works, what are you doing instead of your what's that YouTube channel.
Let me just share my screen. Let
So
me just
our
sign up.
participants will be inspired also for that.
You can see here, this is actually showcasing my very first train video and a time lapse of how I actually model my trains. If you can see here,
Wow, that's
there's like
great.
a full-on
Amazing.
reference there because references are the key to success. And by basically following your reference and then trying to improve upon them, because sometimes references are not perfect. The more the better, but they're not gonna be perfect. So you have to do your own estimation, your own guesses. And this is actually the second version, the much more improved one, made actually 8 months ago. And you can see the three train sets in their generation liveries. And these are done.
Wow, nice.
The model
Yeah, so
here
take note
is
all of
done in Autodesk Maya. The texturing phase is done in both Photoshop and Substance 3D Painter. So my channel here is Gilbert Plays. I have 6,700 subscribers. Almost getting to 7,000 subscribers. Hopefully you can subscribe and maybe I will be releasing my next videos, and they'll be about the PNR and SER. Spoiler, it's not yet out. I'm still uh, reworking on the models themselves and then making new textures to make them even better.
Yeah, so I think we have another question line up here. So it's from Justin Dino. Do you have any preference when it comes to software when 3D modeling?
For me, the
So
preference
that is the question
personally
from
is
Justin Dino.
yes. For me, the preference is in basically the first modeling software that you encounter. For me, it's Autodesk Maya. Because of that, I base all of my skills from there. So it's basically what you're used to. So and what's the available that you have to use. For example, while I learned Autodesk Maya in college, and that's what I got used to. In uh, in my current work, I actually had to use Autodesk 3ds Max as my primary 3D modeling software. In my previous work in Narasoft, I used to work on not only Autodesk Maya but also ZBrush. So you'll be encountering different 3D modeling software. So it's best to learn what you know now, and if you encounter the other software, it's best to translate or transfer your skills to that new software. And maybe you learn something from that that can be transferred back to your old software. Anything is good. You'll learn more. You might get even better insights. You might become faster, and yeah, just keep learning, and you'll be such a big target to hiring companies because you know more software than others.
Yes, exactly. If you know more, you have more opportunities. Yeah. So we have here another question. Uh, Once more from John or John. So what software do you recommend for beginners? Since you have mentioned a lot from a while ago, to the SMAX, to you Autodesk Maya, ZBrush. So from all of those mentioned software, so which is recommended for beginners?
What I see here is there is no software for beginners because you're just gonna set yourself back by using a software that, for example, if you're trying to learn 3D for the industry, the software you might use might not be used for that company. For example, people who learn for the first time use a Blender, but Autodesk Maya and 3ds Max are industry standards, meaning you'll have to relearn what you've learned. So it's really best to try to target the software that, for example, the industries use. It might not be friendly for beginners, or or you might just learn and improve from what you started. For me, it took me forever just to get used to Autodesk Maya, and then when I got used to that, I have to learn how to use ZBrush. That is a pain to learn, and I had to persevere to learn how to use it. And also for 3ds Max, the company that I joined in, even though they're looking for 3ds Max users, I have no prior experience nor prior knowledge on how to use them. I have to learn them by scratch and basically crash course myself in to become uh, very useful for the company. And it took me months just to get up to speed to my Autodesk Maya skills.
All right. Yeah, I hope that answers the question of Sir John. So we have here two questions, but I think they have like a common denominator answer. So they are talking about the specs of the computer recommended for the um when you're starting 3D or like that, something like that. So recommended computer specs
Okay, okay.
when you're
The very
doing 3D modeling.
okay for basic 3D modeling, you can actually use very old computers for 3D modeling. I actually before I have this computer, this tower PC that has like 32 gigs of RAM, 3060 Ti. The first computer that I use for 3D modeling is a second gen i7 with 4 gigs of RAM and no dedicated graphics card, but I was still able to model uh, complex meshes in that old PC. But if you plan to do basic modeling, any computer can work as long as you can run that software. But if you plan to model more complex objects, you might need a more powerful PC. For now, if you have a computer right now that is at least 8 gigabytes of RAM, dedicated GPU, at least, for example, you can use either a 1050 Ti, even very old GPUs, they can work. As long as you have enough RAM or enough processing power, you can do any modeling. Another example that I use, I actually bought a second-hand laptop last December for that has a quad-core Core i5 4th Gen, a PC from 2014 with a GT 750M RAM for a 750M GPU, 8 gigs of RAM, and I just installed an SSD to make it run fast, and I can begin modeling in Autodesk Maya. But if your PC is good enough right now, use the PC you have right now.
Yes. If your PC is good right now, use it. Yeah, so what Sir Gilbert have said. All right. And what else? I think this is the last question that I have seen in line. He is just asking if you are using Blender or you have used Blender.
Blender. I
Have you
actually
used Blender?
dabbled. Yes, yes. I have dabbled in Blender. Uh, I think 2013, just to play with the physics engine, because at that time, I just want to see how it works. Also, it's a free software, so you have no problems installing it. I just build like a Jenga tower and shoot a ball, and then just watch the tower tumble down. And it was a fun uh, tool to play with at the beginning. Then I tried dabbling the donut tutorial because that's a very famous tutorial in YouTube, learning how to model a full-on donut in Blender. It's a much more complex way of learning how to use the software, and it's done in multiple parts. So if I try to do a donut tutorial here in Autodesk Maya, it's gonna take us much longer than 2 hours just to do something as simple as a piece of dice. And that dice already took us an hour to model. So that took a while. I didn't actually come back for that anytime soon because I really can't see myself using that software for the time being. I will learn how to use that software if I need to use that software. But if I don't need to use that software, learning how to use it would not be time efficient for me, especially the busy schedule that I am in right now. Okay, any final message? If you get anything from this learning session, the biggest thing that you have to do here is if you make any mistakes, the undo button is there. It's your best friend. And Hopefully that you can use anything that I teach here for any of your future projects or uh, any ability to learn new software.
All right. Yeah. And of course, the application. So, all of the things that you have learned from this night's learning event, I hope you will bring it and you will apply it on your areas, of course. Yeah. So, thank you once again for being part of this Maya journey with us. And yeah, so Autodesk Maya is really at the forefront of 3D design and animation, shaping industry and sparking creativity. So thank you once again and God bless to everyone. Thank you so much, Sir Gilbert.